On to lesson 6. What sources of protein should we include in our school lunch? So we've previously learned about carbohydrates. In our last lesson, we learned about fats. Now we'll shift our focus to proteins. And so one recent trend has been that uh, protein has been added to a lot of different foods, and that there's this very strong trend towards high protein diets. So students listened to a recent public radio news report about this protein craze, and then we get students talking about it in the Do Now. So the next slide gives a brief overview of why we need protein in our diet and what role it plays in our body. This is a brief overview. You could definitely develop additional activities to support each of these functions and get students to explore that further. This is just a brief overview about proteins. And so we're going to kind of do the similar routine to what we did with carbohydrates and fats and revisit our graham cracker data to look for how proteins are digested in our body. And that leads us to seeing that amino acids are kind of the building blocks of proteins. And we're going to model that with an activity. So you'll have strips of paper, and students will color them in a different variety of colors, and then follow these instructions to fold it a certain way. And each step kind of is representing a step in the protein folding process, and then they'll combine their strips of paper with people at their group and see that the sequence of amino acids, what type of amino acid it is, determines whether they form a loop or are bonded together. And what will result is a variety of proteins in different shapes because the sequences are different. So that's our way to model hands-on how protein folding works. Um, so we introduce uh, students to amino acids and kind of give a brief overview that they have different properties. Some are hydrophobic or hydrophilic. Some have different charges, and this is what affects whether they bond or are repelled, and how they interact with water. So to give an example of that, we look at the hemoglobin structure and share that the scientists who discovered this shape, it took them almost 20 years to come up with this. But now with modern technology, we can very quickly figure out based off an amino acid sequence how the protein will fold. And this has been one of the great applications of AI technology as well, and has been responsible for a recent Nobel Prize. So this video kind of gives an overview of how the Fold It video game has helped us to quickly figure out the shapes of proteins and why that's important. On day 2 of this lesson, we start to look at our diet and where these amino acids come from in our diet. And so we start this lesson with a medical mystery that puzzled scientists at the turn of the century. And there's a description of these symptoms, and then have students kind of guess at what, if they were a doctor, how would they figure out what was happening? And we learn more about this medical mystery through this very entertaining video about pellagra medical mystery, and the various steps that they took to figure out what was going on. And the conclusion that they come to is that Pellagra is a disease that's caused by a lack of niacin, which is made by our bodies if we have tryptophan. So um, tryptophan is an essential amino acid, something we have to get from our diets. So of the 20 amino acids, 11 are made by our body. Nine amino acids are classified as essential amino acids. So this leads us to figure out, well, where are these essential amino acids? Do protein sources have all of them? If so, that's a complete protein. If they're low in some amino acids that are essential, it's an incomplete protein. Then we do an investigation. We divvy up different table groups to research different food groups to see what amino acids they have and if they have them in limiting amounts, meaning that if you kind of relied on that food source, you wouldn't get enough to meet your nutritional needs. So then after students go away and do their research, they come back and share out what foods are could we pair together so that we would have a complete protein. And here are some examples of that, pairing grains and legumes for a complementary protein. And nuts and seeds and legumes are another way where you can get a complete protein without having to rely on meat or eggs. And so now that we have these different ways to make a complete protein, we revisit our school lunch menu to see how adding complementary proteins could increase our protein content in our meals, while also, supporting people who are vegetarians. The last day of this lesson, we consider the environmental impact of where we get our protein. This slide shows students the carbon footprint of various protein sources. And here's a video about a strategy to reduce methane from cows. When we're considering environmental impact of our food, we want to also take into account transportation and food waste. So this calculator that's linked out here will help students kind of explore that idea. Would it be better to have a beef hamburger that is local and that the students love and eat and there's no food waste? Or is it better for the environment to have a chicken burger that's grown far away and maybe there's more food waste because it's not as popular of an item? So this link will help students collect some data to think about this comparison. So we've looked at carbon footprint. Now we're going to look at water footprint as well. And so students can look at certain food items and use this website to calculate the water footprint in gallons per serving of food. Here's some additional data that I found about different protein sources and the water that's required to grow these crops. Here's another, I call it a food print calculator. So it can, and this one also includes like nitrogen fertilizer as well, in addition to carbon footprint and water footprint. So now we're thinking about the fertilizer use, which also has ecological implications in our water through increasing eutrophication and those algae blooms. So So now we take this information about the various footprints of our protein sources and start to compare whether we should have a high carb diet or a high protein diet, and what would be the impact on the environment, and whether those protein sources should come from animal or plant sources. So there's these uh, four scenarios. So scenario A represents the current American diet. Scenario B has shifts uh, the diet to be more plant protein based. Um, Scenario C has us decreasing the amount of protein, but keeping the animal to plant ratio the same. And then shift scenario 3, or letter D, has us reducing the total amount of protein and having it more of it come from plant sources. So there's data for students to explore and to discuss the environmental impacts of plant and animal protein and protein versus carbohydrate ratios. And so our exit ticket has us consider how can we change our school menu so that it's better for the environment. Well, thanks for listening. That gets us through lesson 6. So in lesson 7, we'll start to um, explore how cooking and preparing food changes its biochemistry.